Welcome back, Ascenders, to the Ascended Thoughts Podcast. I'm your host, Mr. Crane. Fear is not real. This is a big one for a lot of people. People go their entire life being afraid, being worried, being anxious, being depressed, and then they take all of that and they package it up and they say, oh, I'm just a pessimistic person. I'm naturally like that. It's a piece of my personality. Or, oh, I'm just cynical, or I'm just skeptical. And they use all these beautiful words to really conceal the fact that what they actually are is afraid. But fear is not real. Fear, false evidence appearing real. Fear is a product of the simulation that we all live in. Fear is a part of this 3D matrix that we have all incarnated in. Fear is a way for the powers that be, the forces behind the powers that be, because, oh yes, there are powers beyond the powers that you see. Some people call it the dark government, but whatever. Fear is their way of manipulating the masses and maintaining control. When something or someone makes you afraid, that thing or person has power over you. And they have learned this a very long time ago. Think about it from this perspective. When you think of punishment, what comes with that? Fear. Fear that if you do something wrong, you will be punished or punished again. Fear that you will be reprimanded. Fear that you will be in trouble. Fear that you will lose something. Fear that something will be taken from you. Fear is a controlling mechanism. They have gotten so good at this method, in fact, that we have now tricked ourselves to be afraid of ourselves. We have now tricked ourselves to be afraid of situations that don't exist and will never exist. We have tricked ourselves to be afraid of a future that has not been created and or manifested. And we have convinced ourselves that to live under the governance of fear is, in fact, a safe way of living. Because if you don't do that and you don't do this, then certain things cannot hurt you, and therefore you are safe. But fear is not real, people. Fear never was real. Fear does not exist. If you take an animal, look at your dog right now. If you have one, maybe they are perched on a couch somewhere. Maybe they are sunbathing with the rays of sunlight that's seeping through your living room window at the moment. When you observe their behavior, you see that they don't operate from a place of fear. Even when they are afraid, notice how they let that go very fast. The ones of you who have animals that don't like thunder, they're afraid for a split second, right? But it's not really fear that we're observing in them. What we are observing is an animal that was startled, an animal that was taken by surprise or taken back. But what we're not observing is an animal that walked around the house all day anticipating thunder. We, as humans, are the only animal on this planet that do things like that. We wake up in the morning with intense anxiety, and then we convince ourselves that, oh, I have anxiety disorder, or I have an anxiety attack, or work is really stressing me out, or I'm having problems in my relationship, and so I just have really bad anxiety. How many of you are those people that have this thing that we call social anxiety? You have a hard time in groups. Why? Because you're anticipating that something may happen. You're not afraid because there is something showing or proving itself to be a predator or an actual threat to you and the breath in your body. You're just anticipating a series of events that you have interpreted to be the opposite of a blessing. And that has caused you to repeat a bioneurological sequence. And it's now causing you to feel anxiety, which is another form of fear. There's something that I want to tell you about this. Fear is actually the lowest frequency that exists. When we are working on our frequency and elevating our vibrations, we really have to get a hold of our fear and a hold of the power that it actually has on us, because it is the lowest form of vibration. When you live in a perpetual state of fear, and Mystic Raid, I hear some people saying, how do I know if I'm living in a perpetual state of fear? Well, you know that you are living that way if you are someone that does suffer from really bad anxiety or depression or any other mental health issues. Those things these days are actually incredibly common, but those things are other manifestations of fear. Now, I am not a doctor. I do not pretend to be a doctor, but in my spiritual journey, I have noticed this. Fear is very low vibration. And have any of you, and I bet you that there are, been in situations where you thought to yourself, you know what? I'm not going to do that, or I'm not going to be involved in such and such because I'm afraid to, or I'm nervous, or I'm afraid of the outcome. And then a few days later, that very outcome happens, and then we say to ourselves, see, I told you. I told you you shouldn't do that one thing, because if you do that one thing, that'll be the outcome. And then that thing happens, and then it reinforces the fear. It reinforces the paradigm that we've created for ourselves. And we continue to live our lives in that same fear cycle. Well, Ascenders, have you ever considered it from this perspective? That when you looked at a situation and you said, I'm not going to do that thing, that you actually put that energy out into the universe and started the manifestation process? Have you ever considered, Ascenders, that you played a very active role in causing that very thing that you were afraid of to actually happen by putting that energy out in the universe? See, what you must realize, Ascenders, is that we are all magicians. And we are all playing, and yes, I say playing, this game called life. It is a simulation. It is a matrix. And we are the ones that create our reality. So if you find yourself stuck in this loop, and we have a tendency to say, oh, I don't have luck like that, or I have bad luck, or my life just doesn't ever really seem to work out that way, or nothing really good ever happens to me. We've all gone through that. We've all had those moments, those cycles. But if you find yourself in that cycle when that is your thought process, you are likely to be stuck in a fear cycle that you have created yourself. Now, I don't want to discredit other people's experiences in life and on their journey, because a lot of times outside influences do affect this particular cycle. But you have the power today, now that you're being made aware of the fact that the cycle exists, to do something about it. You have the power today to make the ultimate decision that that misery and that fear and that anxiety or that depression or that stress stops here. Not you'll stop it on Monday, right? Because we all have a tendency to do that. Maybe we diet and we go, I'm going to start that diet on Monday. This is not how spirituality works, Ascenders. Once you're made aware that something exists that doesn't serve your highest good, it then becomes your responsibility to take action. It is part of the ascension process. Fear is not real. False evidence appearing real. If you have neglected to do something in your life, if there has been a goal or a dream that you've had buried deep down inside you since childhood that you have not pursued because you're afraid that you will fail, this is a reality that you have created for yourself. You don't even know if that's the case because you haven't tried. But the funny thing is, the way this world works is that you have made it the case. You have neglected to do something out of fear that you'd fail, and therefore, by default, because you have done nothing, you have in fact failed. So now you have a decision to make. You have a road to pick, so to speak. You have reached a fork in the road, and you need to make the decision on whether or not you want to go left or you want to go right. One of those ways is continuing to live the way you are now, in your own fear-based paradigm that you've created for yourself. And the other option is accepting that fear is false evidence appearing real. to break that paradigm because you are in control. You are your magician, your own magician, and you are going to make the decision to go the other way. Now, how do you do this? Some people may think, oh, that sounds well and good, but I don't even know what the first steps are. I don't know how to begin. I've lived my life like this. I'm so used to living my life like this. In a way, I have found comfort because it's predictable. It may not be satisfying, but it's predictable. And that predictability has made me feel that it is safe. But I don't know how to begin. The way you begin is start by saying yes to things you would have previously said no to. And the thing that's probably going to make some of you smirk to yourself is the majority of those yeses are going to have to come from you back to you. All those no's that you told yourself previously now have to turn into yeses that you now tell yourself. I'll put it very simply. Sometimes we get up and we look in the mirror, and some people have a hard time liking and accepting what they see, right? And I know some people have had situations where maybe you wanted to go somewhere or do something. Maybe there was a family function or maybe a friend's birthday, and you were so bogged down with fear because of your other low vibrational thought patterns when you looked in the mirror that you said, I can't go. You got anxiety? And you convinced yourself that the reason why you're not going is because you got anxiety. When in essence, you really felt afraid. And you felt afraid for tons of reasons. Maybe you were also afraid about what people would think you looked like. Maybe you were afraid that you would say the wrong thing and people thought you were silly or they judged your intelligence level. So whatever it was, you've convinced yourself under the umbrella of anxiety that that's why you're not going. And then so you decided to bail or pass on whatever event you were actually probably pretty excited about leading up to it. Fear causes people not to take life by the horns. It causes you to miss opportunities. It causes you to pass blessings. And then you end up deeper in your cycle. And then you continue to convince yourself that nothing good is meant to happen to you. And you continue to convince yourself that you're just unlucky or it's just not meant for you. And you start feeding yourself all of these low vibrational thoughts that are created because you're existing in a low vibrational space. And I will say it again, ascenders. Fear is the lowest vibration that exists. That's why fear is the main mechanism that's used by the powers that be to govern us, what we do, who we are, and the things that we say. But you owe it to yourself, ascenders, that just because of the society that's around you is set up that way, it doesn't mean that you have to duplicate that. It does not mean that you have to make the decision to use fear as your main mechanism for governing yourself. You should, in fact, do the opposite. Some of you may have wanted to be an artist, but maybe you were afraid that nobody would like your paintings. So what? As long as you like your paintings, it's the only thing that matters. Maybe there's a country that you always wanted to see, but you were afraid to go because you don't know what's on the other side. What if something happens to you? What if you get hurt? You don't know the language. How would you speak to somebody? So you've come up with all these low vibrational thoughts and patterns to convince yourself out of it and didn't go because you were afraid. Imagine, ascenders, what life would be like for you if you allowed yourself to remove the power that fear has over your life. Imagine all the things that you know deep within you would have done or accomplished if you didn't allow fear be that ultimate deciding factor. All the laughs you would have had, all the things you would have experienced, all the people you would have met, all the opportunities that you could have taken, all the doors that would have been opened for you if you didn't allow fear to have a hold of you. Now look at it from this perspective, ascenders. Imagine that you can still make the decision today that fear will no longer have power over you. Imagine that today can be the day that you choose to live your life differently. Imagine that today you can choose to be courageous. And you can choose to take your power back and restore yourself back to your natural state, which is powerful, happy, jovial, and high vibration. Imagine what your life could look like in 6 months, a year, 5 years from now, if you made the decision that fear no longer had reign over you. If you made the decision that you were finally, today and forevermore, a sovereign being, and that you will be the one making the decisions from here on out. Imagine what your life would look in 365 days. Imagine what it would look like. That's the power that you have, Ascenders. It's as simple as a decision. Now, I'm not saying that the decision is an easy decision, because it's not. When you have lived so much of your life in the confines of a bubble or a box that you have created for yourself, when you have created boundaries because you've convinced yourself that that's what keeps you alive and that is what keeps you safe, it is hard to be the person that makes the decision to step over the line that you drew for yourself. But you know that there's so much else out there left to explore. It's been in you for quite some time now. A lot of you have been sitting there with your own thoughts, thinking to yourself, there's got to be more to this. There's got to be more to my life. This can't be it. Some of you may be thinking, I did everything that they said that you're supposed to do. I lived a textbook life. I got good grades. Maybe you went off to higher education. You got that 9-to-5 desk job. Maybe you then went off and got married and had children. You said, I don't understand. That fire in me, it's gone. It's missing. Where is it? It's because you've allowed yourself to succumb to fear, the fear of the unknown, the fear of what might happen if you actually allowed yourself to pursue your passions and to pursue the things that set your life on fire, that set your heart on fire. Imagine who you would be as a person and what you can accomplish and how you can change the world if you said that today it ends here. Today it stops here. If you said yes to everything you would have previously said no to, the amount of opportunities that you would open up for your life and the amount of blessings you will start to receive. I want to challenge all of you, Ascenders, all of you, for a week to combat your fear. I want to challenge all of you, Ascenders, to do everything directly in spite of your fears for a week. Everything that comes across your plate that you would have previously said no to, I want you to start saying yes, just for a week. You're going to do an exercise. And at the end of the week, I guarantee you will realize that saying yes wasn't all that bad. That saying yes probably gave you an adrenaline rush every once in a while. That saying yes probably excited you a little bit because it was something new and something different. Everything that you would have said no to for this week, say yes. And when I say this week, I don't mean wait until Monday. I mean, the moment you stop listening is the moment you start saying yes. And when you get to the end of your 7 days, I promise you, you will see that it wasn't that bad. And then I want you to add one more day, day 8, and you'll see it's not that bad. Day 9, and then you will see that it's not that bad. And we're going to take baby steps, right? We're going to plant seeds, and those seeds will slowly turn into a garden, and they will slowly blossom into a forest. We're not going to be able to shift your thinking overnight. It took you a long time to get to where you are today. It's going to take you a long time to reverse it. So we're going to plant the seed. And the seed, we're going to plant it for 7 days. Start saying yes to things that you would have previously said no to. And I guarantee you will start to notice a shift in your life. You'll start saying, wait a minute. That thing over there no longer serves my highest good. I want to get rid of it. And that thing over there no longer serves my highest good. And I want to get rid of that too. And you will start to see that getting rid of those things that you were previously afraid of getting rid of isn't all that bad. And that you probably feel a lot lighter for it. Because guess what? Now you've got room for new, prettier, shinier things that you originally wanted in the first place. Do not allow fear to govern you. Just because the powers that be are the ones that use fear as a governing tactic does not mean you should make the decision to use fear as a governing tactic for your own personal life. Fear. False evidence appearing real. Stay inspired and keep ascending.